Good day all. This is Mr. Peters from Kolkata. Welcome back to the second episode of The Champion is Born, where the champion rower of the 70s Mr. Ashok Mehta will take us through his rowing days. Now it is over to Mr. Mehta to give his welcome message.
Good evening friends, it was nice that WBRA is now taking the initiative of making this video of mine, and I would like to share with my friends and other colleagues how I traveled down the memory lane right from the beginning of my career, starting in 1967 and through the ARAE championships which we used to have in those times, and till the modern concept of rowing which has been adopted nowadays. And I would like to share and enlighten my young generation on how I achieved this goal in rowing.
Starting during the era from 1970s saw West Bengal Rowing Association being established on 18th September 1973 at Calcutta. Followed then was the formation of Tamil Nadu Rowing Association in 1974 to form the Rowing Federation of India on August 1976. Samarendra Chandra Sen as President and Mr. Hiranmay Ganguly as the Secretary General of the newly founded Federation. State associations was formed like Orissa Association for Rowing and Sculling in 1977 under the presidency of Brigadier K.P. Singhdev. Maharashtra Rowing Association in also 1977. The first major championship that was rolled off by the Rowing Federation of India was the first Nationals in 1977. It was held in the waters of Ravindra Sarovar, Calcutta, and now let's hear what Mr. Ashok Mehta recollects from his memories relating to the first Nationals.
The first Nationals was held in 1977, and that too was in Calcutta. First National Rowing Championship under RFI was held in 1977. And the crew, you would be surprised, consisted of Girish Patnis, Sotinath Mukherjee, myself, and Komol as bow. So it was a mixture of 2-3 clubs, and we were trained by late Mr. Moni Sarkar. Okay. And I did 2 events. I did pairs with Komol, and fours the crew I spelt out, and Sumant used to do sculling also. The first Nationals, Sumant in sculling, fours, and Komol and myself in pairs. We won all gold. Komol and myself won 2 gold in fours and pairs. Sumant won 2 golds in scull and fours. And we had a clean sweep in the first national, trained by Moni Sarkar. Okay.
Coming back to 1971 ARAE again, the story of ARAE is not complete without narrating the cultural and celebration aspect of it. Would like you tell us about it?
Yeah. First I'll come to the ARE dinner point, which was normally 2 days before the finals. And in Pune, the formal dinner was organized by the army. And as you know, the army is absolutely disciplined dinner. The chief or the head of the table, if he finishes his soup and you are still on your soup, the elderly standing behind you will take your soup cup and go away, whether you have finished or not. Similarly, if the army chief, who is the head of the table, if he finishes his second course and you have not finished your second course, your plate is gone. So it was so disciplined, and it was very interesting also. The band, the army band playing behind you, and all dressed up people who are serving you. It was a great feeling. And when after winning the ARE, it is a tradition in rowing that the cup is filled up with all sorts of hard drinks. Yeah. So the first time I tasted a hard drink in '68 after winning the Wellington Trophy, it was filled up by the Lake Club people, and one sip, my head was spinning. It was a mixture of rum, whiskey, brandy, beer, and whatnot. And they used to give us 10. They used to give us 10. Even one sip won't do. You have to take 10 sips. So you can imagine a mixture of drinks called a cocktail, and having 10 sips, half the people fell on the floor. And it was a great affair, great gathering. The only minus points at that time was that we did not have so many girls rowing. So it was unfortunate we didn't have anybody to dance with on the dance floor. And we were only given beer to drink, and that was our celebration after winning during the ARAE night.
And the beer trophy where all participating rowers mix to form teams and have a fun competition. Here is what he said.
We had the beer trophy like we have nowadays, and we had it in eights. It was a eights which was a mixture of all the clubs of Calcutta versus clubs of a mixture of Colombo and Madras, and we had the eights as a beer trophy in Pune.
The final remembrance note from Mr. Mehta regarding ARAE 1971.
And one thing which really now embarrasses me also was that in Pune we used to normally fly, and in Pune when we were flying back, we went from the ARAE night straight to the airport. Okay. And before boarding the plane, there was a gentleman standing who wanted to see the boarding pass. Okay. And I was so drunk and out, I thought he wants me to shake hands with him. So he wanted to see my boarding pass. I was so drunk, I was shaking hands with him. He said, "No handshake, boarding pass." I said, "No boarding pass, handshake." So he got fed up and told me, go up the stairs. Yeah. And I sat on the plane, and I don't know when I landed Calcutta airport. Yes, very true. This is our first nationals which we had won in 1977. You can see Shotinath standing. Next to Shotinath is myself. Then Monishda standing. Nirmal Majumdar as Cox. Girish Fatnis standing next to Monishda, and Komol on the extreme right. This was the one post gold medal crew. Okay. December. This was the ARE where Sumant made his first McLean sculls, beating Bradley CRC, one of the greatest scullers at that time. Bradley was from CRC.
Okay. Bradley was originally from UK.
Bradley was from UK. Yes. Very true.
So at that time, we Indians could beat international scullers.
Yes. Bradley used to scull for Henleys also. He had rowed in the Henleys also. He was a great sculler. He won a couple of McLeans, and the first time he lost to Sumante was in this championship.
Okay. So that would act a very good inspiration of to modern nowadays rowers.
Yeah, this is where we set the record. You can see the written up, set up new record. This took the officials 5 minutes to declare the timing. They could not believe their stopwatches, and we were anxiously waiting in the boat, and two of us on the jetty, to know what was the reason of the time not being announced. The results are announced, but the timings were not announced. And we were sitting in the boat, anxiously waiting for the timings to be informed. Yes, Pune. This is the A crew and the B crew. With the two coaches, I think B crew was trained by Sam Medora and A crew was trained by Lala Chatterjee.
Okay. So here we see in the middle Sam sir also standing with the A crew.
Yes, yeah, with the B crew.
With the B crew.
And on the right, Lala Chatterjee's right hand was the A crew. Yeah. Lala trained us and Sam trained the B crew.
Okay.
As the B Sen Cox, the extreme left. Next to B Sen is Kumar, then Kawas, and I think
Gurnani
and Dipen, I think. And sitting down is Orundas the scholar.
Okay, who is sitting?
Yes, sitting down with his skull blades.
Okay. Yeah, this was the 8th.
This was the 8th for the Bear Trophy in Pune, consisting of all Calcutta clubs versus a mixture of Colombo and Madras clubs.
Do you recollect who was there starting from the stroke?
Yeah, I think stroke was Lala Chatterjee, 3 was Bagga. Behind Bagga is your CRC member. What was he called? I just not being able to connect. Behind him was I think Chanduda or somebody. Then myself is there, Chandan is there, and this was the rest of them.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry Breeze was at 3. Behind Bagga was Terry Breeze, a CRC member. I think he was captain of CRC also at that time.
So this was your Bear Trophy race in the 8th?
In the 8th, yes. That was just an exhibition race.
So who won it? Just for
naturally we won it.
Mr. Mehta, you have rowed in both forms of fours, and you have seen the transition from the coxed fours to the coxless fours. Can you tell us which type of fours is advantageous?
I would say it was an advantage to the crew because the guidance was given by the cox. But nowadays a 4- requires more skill. You have to be your own cox, and you have to do your own judgment. And the coxes the advantage with the coxes was that he used to give us the running commentary of our opponents also. And based on that, we used to form our strategy during the race, which in a 4- you have to do yourself. So you require more skill these days than in our days.
Champions are born talented, but their identification and nurturing that inherent ability within the athletes is done by their elders at their house. Proper guidance, discipline, and obedience to the rules of the game is inculcated at the early stages by the surrounding persons at their home. When it comes to training and competition, having the support of family, friends, and teammates is an athlete's secret weapon of improving rowing success on game days. It is obvious that social support systems helps an athlete to stick to a training program or eat a healthy diet. which helped Mr. Ashok Mehta to perform better during competition. Let's hear from him about his lifelines in his early days of rowing.
Okay, I would start with like this, that I was born in the year 1948 in Calcutta.
Okay.
My family, my father was in the film industry.
Okay.
And I have an elder brother who was my inspiration and who brought me to rowing. It was a very amusing and very, I would say, I would like to speak out, but since you have asked this, I was forcibly brought into rowing by my elder brother. See, I gave my higher secondary in 1965. Okay. And after giving the exams, I had about 2 months of free period. And then all of a sudden it struck me that I should join a gym. So in 65, I joined a gym and I started doing bodybuilding.
Okay.
In a couple of months, my bodybuilding trainer said that you have a good bulk of muscles. Why don't you start doing wrestling?
Right.
I said, okay, fine with me. So I was shifted to wrestling. And as you know, young blood, 17, 18, 19 years old, young blood, doing wrestling, having muscles. I used to do a dadagiri in the locality.
Okay.
He went to a fruit shop, ate fruits, didn't pay him anything. Milkman was passing by, caught hold of him, forcibly drank his milk. He asked for money, gave him a slap, went away. So this continued for a couple of months, and all complaints from the locality used to come to my elder brother.
Okay.
So one day over dinner, my elder brother said, listen, Ashok, from tomorrow, no more wrestling, bodybuilding for you. You have to come for rowing. I said, why are you forcing me? Well, no, there are a lot of complaints and no more wrestling or bodybuilding. From tomorrow morning, get ready at 5, take you to the rowing club. So I was not very happy, but my father intervened. He said, okay, your elder brother is telling you so. Try it for 1 week. If you don't like, you can go back to your wrestling. I said, okay, I'll give a try for 1 week. If I don't like, I'll quit. So that was in the year 1967. I was brought to the club, and that is the time when I entered rowing, and still now I am with it. But that's the start of my story into rowing.
You and your brother was in the same club fighting for a seat in the team, so who usually won the fight?
Yeah, he was in the A crew, which we beat in 1968. He was with Lalada and Chandon and J.K. Roy. He was the two in that boat, which lost to us. They were Lake Club A and we were Lake Club B at that time. In 1968, they lost to us the first time. We beat them and won the first Wellington for our club. 68, when they lost to us, all four of them left rowing. And Lalada continued, J.K. Roy expired, Chandan came into our boat, my elder brother went into the tea gardens for his job. So that A crew broke and we took over as Lake Club A crew and continued for a couple of years. At one time he was associated, he is in UP nowadays, he's in Lucknow. At one time he was very much associated with the UP Rowing Association. Okay. He was one of the founder members of the UP Rowing Association. But nowadays, because of age, he's not very active into rowing.
Okay. So how many brothers and sisters were you?
We are only two.
Okay.
What about your schooling and college days?
My childhood days, actually in those days, we used to have a lot of locality sports. Like in the locality, we used to play cricket, we used to play football, we used to play hockey. And I was very much into sports. Schooling also, I was in South Point High School. I played football for the school team. I played hockey for the school team. I played cricket for the school team. And from the very beginning, I was not very good in studies, but I was very inclined towards sports. And as you know, 65 passing out from school, I joined the College of Ceramic and Glass Technology.
Okay.
And in 1970, I got my first job.
Okay.
So, and that means I was about 2-3 years into rowing when I got my first job.
How did you manage your studies and your daily life activities with your passion?
Studies, actually, I passed out. I was 3 years into college when I was also rowing, 67. It taught me, the first thing it taught me was the discipline. Getting up at 5 o'clock, no late nights. Our time, there was no TV. The only recreation we had was the radio. We used to listen to Hindi songs. That was the only recreation. No late nights. And we were so dedicated into rowing that before a championship, no junk food, no puchkas, which I think these days is quite a craze amongst the youngsters. But junk
Let's hear an important advice from Mr. Mehta.
food, yes, I would advise no athlete under training should have junk food, which we also, our time, junk food, we didn't have these pizzas and all those things, hamburgers. The only junk food we used to have was puchkas, which was a complete no for us during training. And even in the weddings, if we had to go, we used to be very careful of our diet, because rowing, as you know, it's a team sport. And if you are not dedicated, if you are not serious, and if you fall sick, you're letting down 3 other people.
Yeah.
So this rowing taught me that you have to work in a team and you have to look after your team. So all 4 of us used to look after each other, and it taught me a lot of things in life, that you should look after your teammates, which also helped me in my work career also.
Ice cream?
Sometimes yes, but it was not a total no, but we used to be very careful. And we used to avoid going to movies, because if a person sitting next to you in an AC hall has a cold, you are invariably catching that cold, and your next day, couple of days outing will also be spoiled. So during practice, movies were a no, junk food was a no, late nights was a no. It was a sort of a regular disciplined life if you have to do well in rowing. If you are really serious of rowing, you have to sacrifice a lot in life. This is what it had taught me. If you have to succeed, you have to do a lot of sacrifice in life.
With that, we have come to the end of this episode.
Thank you, my dear friends. I hope this episode of mine was not boring, and if you feel interested, you can log into my other episodes, which will be coming soon. Hope you appreciate it, and if any suggestions for the future episodes, most welcome. Thank you once again, my fellow athletes.
While requesting all of you to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button so that you can get a notification as soon we publish the next episode. Happy watching, and comment on how you liked this episode. We will be back next week, same day, same time. Next week, we will hear from Mr. Ashok Mehta about how he headed the only rowing expedition carried out in India till date, for around 2,000 kilometers in a coxed force.